Welcome to New Jersey Now. I'm Brenda Blackmon. Today, Governor Christie, YouTube sensation, how the governor is making use of social media and how it's made him a national star in the world of politics. But could it also signal a new form of politician? And then the DREAM Act. The House passes a bill that would open the door to citizenship for undocumented youth, but it is blocked in the Senate. We'll hear why the bill has caused a firestorm of controversy. But first, the item on the agenda for the lame duck session, the Bush-era tax cuts. Democrats wanted them extended for the middle class only. Well, Republicans wanted cuts for everyone, including the wealthy. GOP leaders got their wish in a compromise with President Obama, and it's left many Democrats feeling left out in the cold. Sharon Crowley has more.
I think it's tempting not to negotiate with hostage takers, unless the hostage gets harmed.
A defensive and irritated President Obama tried to explain why he decided to compromise and extend tax cuts for all Americans, including the rich. The president said he was looking out for the jobless. His deal includes an extension of unemployment benefits. Political analysts said the president had no choice.
The president did this largely for practical reasons politically and to get the Republican support to extend unemployment benefits. That's it. There's nothing else to this.
Democrats are angry. They say the president and Republicans negotiated a deal without involving them. Critics say this compromise will also further increase the looming deficit.
The price for the release of the hostages for a $100,000 tax cut for someone who makes $1 million here, too heavy a price.
The president said he didn't back down on his principles. In fact, he was trying to avoid a long, drawn-out political fight. He says that tax cuts for the wealthy are part of the Republicans' economic doctrine. He called it their holy grail.
We can do a whole bunch of other stuff, but if the economy is not growing, if the private sector is not hiring faster than it's currently hiring, then we are going to continue to have problems no matter how many programs we put into place.
The president also seemed to relish in the fact that more of his critics, Republicans, will be in Congress next year so they can share the responsibility of trying to get things fixed. Sharon Crowley, My 9 News.
So what could this all mean for the Garden State if it passes both the House and the Senate? Joining me for more, Deborah Howlett, who is president of New Jersey Policy Perspective, and Jerry Cantrell, who is president of the Common Sense Institute of New Jersey. Welcome to the show to both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, Democrats are not in favor of this deal, and with the sticking point really centering around estate taxes. Democrats say it's a giveaway to the ultra-rich. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think, first of all, the issue that's being raised is tax cuts. It's not really a tax cut. It's a continuation of the current levels of taxation. The rhetoric that's playing out in the political theater down in Washington is putting many of these people as pawns in the discussion that's going on as far as the people who are unemployed and the people who are under that $250,000 threshold.
Do you really think it's a giveaway to everyone?
Well, it's a giveaway to the rich. I don't think that most folks are going to notice much difference in their paycheck one way or the other. But I think the president achieved some very important goals that he had, including extension of the unemployment benefits, and the Republicans were never going to let that happen unless they got some of these tax cuts for the rich. The thing that's made Democrats the most upset, and progressives who believe in a fair tax policy for all Americans, is the estate tax cuts. This is clearly a tax cut. This wipes out $400 billion worth of tax cuts for the wealthiest people whose value is worth $5 million or more. And they'll be freed up from having to pay any of taxes on that wealth. And that's what Democrats are most upset about.
And you know, most of us get kind of confused and everything when it comes to these tax cuts. And I mean, even here in the Garden State, I mean, when Governor Christie started talking about vetoing immediately after, you know, it was passed here in the Garden State, should the wealthy be making sacrifices? I mean, shouldn't we be asking more of them, especially if the economy is going through the struggle it is right now?
Well, now is not the time to change the tax policy. The bottom line is the economy is in such a precarious situation that we don't want to be imposing negative impacts on the economy going forward. The estate tax is a double and triple tax in some cases on people who have earned that money. They've paid the original tax on the income, and now all of a sudden, because they're transferring that wealth to another generation who may need that money to run these businesses, et cetera, we're just, you know, imposing additional burdens on these people unnecessarily.
Well, that's ridiculous. Even Warren Buffett agrees that that money should not be transferred within the family, that some of it should go to benefit society. He and Bill Gates of Microsoft have come out and said that you've accumulated this wealth, you should share it with the public. And they're doing it through a foundation. It should be done through taxes, through the government, so that the people can decide how it's spent rather than them parceling it out. But at the same time, conservatives say, oh, we shouldn't change tax policy. Well, they don't want to change tax policy when it comes to increasing taxes, but they sure want to change tax policy when it comes to cutting taxes.
$1 trillion, can we afford it?
Who benefits the most from many of these government services that are provided that the taxpayers are paying for? Bottom line is the people who benefit most are the people who are probably paying the least into it. Look at the tax rates on the wealthier individuals who are making large sums of money. You can argue that class warfare issue all you want, but the bottom line is we need that money going back into the economy to create more jobs, to grow businesses.
But a rising deficit, can we afford that?
The issue as far as the tax cut is a small percentage of the deficits that are going forward. The government is spending at huge amounts of money. Every year they're spending more. We should put a cap on that spending and ratchet it back. Then look at long-term fiscal policy from the standpoint of look at the Medicare programs and the entitlements. Let's start looking at them and get them in line so that the spending isn't going to be a burden on the next generation.
Is it going to create jobs?
No, absolutely not. These are tax cuts. If there is a problem with the deficit, having less money is not going to solve the problem with the deficit. And anybody who's making $250,000 or more a year in this economy is doing pretty well. Half of all Americans are paying as much tax as the top 1% of the wealthy. And that's an imbalance. And there needs to be more of a balanced solution between tax cuts and new revenues to solve these problems.
Do you think a compromise would have been reached if Republicans had not won a majority in the House?
I think there would have been some compromise. I think that it was very important for President Obama to extend unemployment benefits, and that's the leverage that the Republicans held. But I think the real anger at the president right now within his own party is not just making that deal, but throwing in the estate taxes as well.
Bottom line, what do you think it's going to mean for the Garden State?
Well, I think, you know, the direction that the president seems to be going in at this point in time, and the minority until next month, I think is setting the stage for, again, we're trying to get this economy going in a positive direction. We're competing on a global basis. It's not just New Jersey. It's not just the United States anymore. We're competing against large economies like China, and they're actually providing the money for this increased spending here in the United States.
And we have to remember that now we are seeing the president start talking about a complete overhaul of the tax system. And I think that's where this is leading us. And if this compromise leads to an overhaul of the tax system, and we do it honestly and fairly, maybe it is a good thing. Maybe it turns into a good thing.
Thank you both.
We'll agree on that.
Oh, wow.